It's live. Let me go to my sites. I got a question for you, B.
Yeah.
What if you had like a real heavy meal like before the show, and then you were
Hmm.
on the show, and like you had your stomach was rumbling. Would you get up? Keep in mind we
Yeah,
are live. We are live.
I have a I have a reserve of depends, so that if I gotta go, I just gotta go. You know.
You're not just gonna put the one finger up. Hey guys, I'll be right back.
No, no, no. We just gotta let it go, just like in Dumb and Dumber. Just go, man. Just go.
Hey man, yeah, I can tell. People have those faces. You can make those.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
trying to hold it in and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You
I'm like,
just
man, just go ahead and do it. We can
it's
pause
like it's like the Pony Express. The show must go on, so you
it.
just got to do what you got to do.
I'm handle it, bro. I guarantee you, I'm gonna handle it, bro. And when you come back, let me know because I'm gonna be like, all right, hey, you handle it now. I gotta take a break.
Again, people would be watching the show is like, is that a Gatorade bottle he just put underneath the
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
bro.
I would be one to
what is it?
just hold on, man. I'd just be holding
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Towards the
yeah,
end, kind of
yeah.
squinting a little bit.
Getting
Yeah.
redder and redder and redder by the minute.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
Start
gosh.
sweating. Yeah.
Hey Charlie, you trying to play the song and you messing up with the song and stuff like that.
well, I have always wondered that. Like Charlie, what would you do if you were on stage and you just gotta go when you gotta go? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, you just say, "Guys, I'm sorry, but it's time to pull the guitar. I gotta go." I mean, like,
Oh
what?
man, it has. Okay, I travel a lot as a musician, so you go to new
Yeah,
places and eat new foods. It happens. It
Oh
happens.
gosh, that
yeah,
that
man.
sucks. That sucks. Well,
You
we got 1 minute. We got 1 minute before 5. I thought I'd start off by saying that to loosen us up a bit.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to be too loose, according to this
yeah.
right now.
What's choice of words here, buddy?
Oh goodness. Okay. All right. Let's see here.
Where are we? Are we at 5?
Oh, we got about 1 minute, brother. 1 minute. When
Uh,
this thing hits 5, I'm going to talk to my friend over here. I got a friend over here. Hmm. Okay, well, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. So in five, four, three, two, one. Alexa, play "What About You" by Charlie Cope.
Here's What About You by Charlie Cope on Amazon Music. I tried laughing, cause it's the only thing I ain't tried yet. You're getting further, the closer that I get. Guess in hindsight, we're both a little misunderstood. But I know you would, if anybody could. I know you got your heart set on leaving, but I've got mine on believing. I know a lot of this is coming out on you, but I still feel the way I used to. Oh, what about you? Surely by now I should learn not to play with fire no more. No, your mind said on leaving, but I've got mine on believing. I know a lot of this. Won't feel the way I used to.
What about you? Welcome to The Recovering Addict. That was What About You by Charlie Cope. I am Rich Ray. I am a recovering addict. Thank you for tuning in today.
And I'm Brandon Friendship. I'm a recovering addict.
I'm Charlie Cope. I'm a recovering addict.
Okay, well, let's get this thing started then. Brandon.
Yes, sir. What's happening?
Working on a new movie last night. Would you like to see?
I know. I heard about this rumor. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Something about freedom.
Would you like
let's
to
see that?
All right, let's see. Yes. And I was working hard on that for like 3 or 4 hours last night, bro. And I was actually going to
Freedom on the loose.
I was actually going to use the Pharrell song. The Pharrell song, it's a song called Freedom. And I actually put it on the actual trailer, and then I uploaded it last night to Facebook, and Facebook was like, you better stop playing games. You don't have the rights to this. So they took me off.
I had a feeling.
And even after I put, I do not own the rights to it. They was like, we don't give a shit. You better get it off. That's
what did I tell you? I told you that. I told you that, Chuck. I said, I bet you anything. Oh my God. But you know what though? This okay though, because here's the thing. We're on Americana today. And
right.
This is closer to Americana what you had on that back.
You know what? It sure is.
Rocky sound. So,
it sure is. I saw Mr. Americana over there jamming to it, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So it is what it is.
Hey, a little bit about Miss Freedom. You know, we got her about 2 years ago, and I was going through a real rocky part in my addiction, and of course, I was looking forward to recovery. I was looking forward to it, and I told my daughter, I was like, listen, let's go ahead and get a dog. And I didn't know I was going to name her Freedom, but when I saw her, and me and my daughter had came up with names and stuff like that, I was like, you know, let me go ahead and name her Freedom, because that is what I need most in my life in regards to my addiction. I need freedom. And Freedom has spent a lot of time during my detox, you know, me coming to Houston when I had a detox, and then San Antonio having a detox and stuff like that. She spent time with me on my trips and stuff like that. And has become I don't want to say a major part, but a nice part of my recovery, just her being around and stuff like that. Instead of me being alone and by myself and in the dark, she was actually there with me. And so, anyways, that brings us
And
to.
speaking on, I wanna interject here.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I gotta do it. I gotta do it, and you know I do.
Oh gosh.
Okay, yeah. So we're coming out of the dark in this episode, but for those of you that listen closely to our show, I'm gonna apologize on behalf of one of the hosts of the show
One of us.
for bouncing around and deciding he wasn't gonna do shedding the shame today. We will get to that, guys. So just
Yes.
bear with us. But he's on the right track. We got to do coming out of the dark first.
We got to. You
But
can't
this
come
is-
out of that without.
But see,
without-
you guys are learning our personality, and so this is a key factor of learning who Rich is
in
you
and
just
out.
got to go with the flow. You just got to go with the flow. If you
You
don't, you ain't gonna like our show
Hey,
because he's
man.
gonna go all over the place at times.
Hey man, that's just uncomfortably real, bro.
And raw,
raw,
I'm
bro.
gonna tell you
All
right
right,
now, it's raw.
listen,
Yeah, so that's the real deal right there.
I apologize, y'all. It was called Shedding the Shame, and I'm thinking the next episode is going to be called Shedding the Shame. I just,
we think.
if I feel it in my spirit to you know, I gotta go that direction.
The jury's out.
So
Charlie's gonna be over here singing songs about how Rich is all over the place. We're gonna have a brand new inspiration. We're gonna have a brand new type of category of music.
Oh, so this episode is called Coming Out of the Dark. And the reason why, you know, I decided to come out, or, you know, to bring this episode before anything else is I felt, you know, during my own recovery and talking to people in recovery and people that are not in recovery, that addiction and mental health is hidden all across the globe. It is hidden. And for us to move forward in recovery, we have to come out about it. I can't tell you how many people who know me did not know that I was an addict and how long I've been an addict. And so, you know, this show is going to enlighten people who do watch, whether you're family, friends, or you're an addict or a recovering addict. We're doing this to enlighten you in regards to how it can hurt yourself, how you can hurt yourself by hiding it. If you really want to come out of recovery or into recovery, if you really want to come out of that addiction, the first thing you have to do is you got to come out of the dark about it. You got to start, you know, telling people about it. You have to speak about it. You got something to say about that, Brandon?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what this is all about. You know, when we talked about in our orientation episode to begin, it was all about saying, look, you know, this is about a shift in perspective. This is about changing the perspective, not just for yourself as a recovering addict, but it's for families, it's for friends that don't understand what this recovery process is like. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of shame. There is a lot of fear. There's a, you know, I mean, even I gotta give you some props, Charlie, for being on the show with us. You are an up and coming artist. You had an album come out, and yet you are on a show about recovering addicts. That takes some bravery right there. Just being willing to say, hey, you know what, part of his coming out of the you know, dark is similar to ours, Rich. I mean, when you look at that, I mean, here's the thing, you know, he could say, you know, I don't want nobody to know about that, you know, I'm just going to keep this private in my life. But right now, I mean, you know, we're going through, as a nation, going through so many things, and a lot of people have started to come to the revelation that, hey, I'm going to start being real. I'm going to start just being real about what's going on in my life. I'm going to start going ahead and just being outspoken about it. Even if, you know, celebrities, famous people are doing the same thing. And you know, we don't need to hide. I think that's the reason why so many people have stayed in the struggle for so long. Because a lot of times when you go into seclusion, you're never going to get real with yourself. You're never going to be honest with those around you. And that's part of recovery is being honest with yourself and those around you and saying, hey, look, I need help. I need you to be with me through this journey. And, you know, there's no shame in it. But for some reason, part of the addiction, you know, and the recovering process is a lot of times there's a perspective that you have of yourself. It's a shame you have in yourself at a certain type of inner thought that you think, well, no, I can't be real about this. This is just too much. You know, people are going to judge me. People are going to cut me down. People are not going to understand this. And I think our greatest fear is probably those that are closest to us about being like that, you know, because we don't know what they're going to say. We don't know if we're going to be judged. And we think, well, I'm already struggling through the recovery process. It's going to be hard enough. But man, you know, I got, what if somebody doesn't like the fact that I'm being this open about it, you know? So yeah, this is definitely part of, you know, coming out of the dark is necessary for the, you know, this is about being honest with ourselves and everyone else.
It is. And you know me, I like to come with, you know, some knowledge. I do studying, you know, a few times a week in regards to addiction and mental health. And there were a few points that I wanted to make. I had I researched and read this blog that points out why people do not come out or do not come out with their addiction. Why people hide their addiction is what it's called, and what to do about it. And I wanted to share with you guys a few points and get your opinion about it, get your thoughts about it. The first one, and I think this may be the number one: addiction carries a stigma. What I read from that, it says the public eye sees it as a weakness in character rather than a psychological illness. For instance, a recent study revealed that stigma of an addiction carries more weight than the stigma of mental illness. It appears that many people believe that an addiction is an indication of a personal flaw. I don't like that. This one barrier that frequently stands in the way of seeking help or telling others about what's going on. During my studies, and me personally, I found over the years that addiction is a disease, okay? Right. And it is a brain disease that can affect someone or affect their whole way of living. Like you have certain diseases that, whether it's, I mean, I don't want to go through the list of diseases, but the certain illnesses and diseases, they may affect one person, one thing, one character of the person, but addiction and mental health can affect the entire person, their mind, the way they think, the way they eat, the way they sleep. It makes them look like a totally different person when they are full-blown addict. And so, and me studying the disease, me learning about myself, I think that the nation and the world should come to grips with the fact that it is a disease. It is not something that someone can just say, okay, yeah, I started, I'm an addict, and now all of a sudden just stop. You can't get rid of a disease like that. You have to put in work. You have to put in effort. You have to take the steps. They call them 12 steps. You have to take certain steps to get through, to walk through that disease and eventually come out of it. So that stigma part, you got to say something about that stigma, Brandon?
I do. I mean, here's the thing. I think the biggest thing is that the fallout of addiction is that it causes erratic behavior. And it's not so much necessarily the addiction part of your mind and disease that gets the stigma. It's the behavior you have and the things you go do while you're under the addiction process that causes that. That's where that stigma has been coming from, because it's caused, getting thrown into jail, driving behind the wheel under the influence, doing things that affect family. That's got a stigma to it, because why? That is the outcome of what happens when you are an addict. And so it's when you're objectively looking at it and you've got the right perspective on it, you realize, okay, yes, if we took an addict and we stuck them in a padded room where they couldn't get out and affect the world in any way whatsoever, they'd still be an addict, but they wouldn't be affecting anybody. But the bottom line is that when you're walking out your life and you have a problem up here, you're not necessarily going to be on your A game about not affecting everybody in your path, and so that's, I think, where the stigma comes in. And so then there's judgment cast, because we go, well, why can't you just clean up your act? But the problem is if you're not right here, you're not going to be right everywhere else. you know? And so if we can get to the place, if families and friends and even ourselves can get to that place where we go realize, part of this is coming to grips with it, realizing there is a problem, and then helping families to realize that, then the stigma starts to drop, because we understand there was a lot of bad behavior in the past, but we're all about cleaning that up. But we got to clean up what's up here before we can clean up what's going on around us. You know, so it's a collective thing, but that's where that stigma is coming from. And so that's it.
I'm glad you mentioned family, because the next one that they talk about is people don't want to shame their family. Now, I know growing up, I grew up, you know, in a Christian home, where my parents would, you know, we'd be at church every Sunday, you know, and getting to my 20s, in my middle 20s, becoming an addict. That was one thing. That was one of the toughest things that I had to deal with, which was going to my parents, not just my parents, my brothers and sisters, and telling them, listen, guys, I'm an addict. Now, at that point, I didn't realize that I was a full-blown addict. And I don't really think I was a full-blown addict until about my 30s. But even then, it was so tough to tell them and then come out to people who know my family, not just know me, but bro, we know your mom, we know your dad, you know, you're not an addict, because no, your parents have been, you know, in the community and helping people. So how can their own son be an addict? You know what I'm saying? And so many people put stuff past the actual addict. Like, you can't be that because of your family, you know? Right. So
it's like you're an attachment. Yeah, you're an attachment or an extension of them, and it's pulling you along with their whatever reputation's been built. And I mean, I remember this. I mean, you know, Rich and I have been friends for 17 years. I used to go to church when your dad was a pastor, you know, and obviously there were things that you and I never talked to Dad about. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was Mr. Ray. How you doing, Mr. Ray?
Get out of my house, son.
Yeah, exactly. There was just things you had to do. You just understood that was Pastor Ray.
Get out now. Richard, you better walk him out.
So there was just, that's the way it was. My dad's a pastor too, you know. So, you know, there's things that I protect his reputation. You know, we all do that. I protect my mother's reputation, and I protect my sisters, and I protect a lot of people. My daughter, you know, I got a 14-year-old daughter. So there's a lot of things we do because we want to make sure that we're not pulling someone else down. So we're still trying to walk through this process, but we realize there's a societal stigma here. And it's like, how do you get help and get to that place? You know what I'm saying? And not bring everybody along on your erratic journey while you're trying to get help and get to that place. So I realized there is some process there, and it's just about being open and talking about that, you know?
Another one, the next one. And this one right here, so, and this, it's really not funny, but I'll tell you why I'm laughing, because this one says there might be legal consequences. That is a reason why people do not come out with it. And that is a great reason why you should not come out with your addiction. I had one friend who was going to actually come on the show, and he was like, all right, bro, I'm with it, but let me get right back with you. And then the next day he was like, listen, bro, I was told by my attorney that it would not be smart for me to hop on this particular show. And I congratulated him. I was like, bro, congratulations, bro. You made the right move. You made
right. Because, hey, you know what? And even you and I had this discussion, Rich, before we started the show. You know, I'm a former federal officer with Department of Homeland Security, and I sat there and asked the same question in my mind. Even though I've retired from that agency, I had issues years ago. I haven't been in the midst of drugs in years and all that, but it's like, okay, is there any kind of legal ramifications of saying I was a former federal? I had to be squeaky clean. I had to have a perfect record. You know, I never was brought down by anything during my career, or nothing was ever revealed about anything, but at the same time, you still ask those questions because it makes you think, okay, what about my reputation? What about the reputation of the people I work for? You need to think about the people you work for. That's a big one. So a lot of people probably don't want to get help because of the job that they have. Maybe they have a really good job and they're kind of concerned about, hey, what if my boss finds out? What if the company has a problem with having someone going through, rehabilitation and recovery? So those are things that sometimes hold people back because they really don't even know what is allowed for them to do. So it kind of, these are all things to think about.
See, my mind works crazy, man. I was thinking like, let's just say the Recovering Addict, the podcast, like, we get 1 million subscribers and we're known for our podcast and stuff, right? And then TMZ, they do some research, right?
Yeah.
They go back,
yeah.
they see you in our early 20s.
Yeah.
They show some pictures. Here's your recovering addict, and we're like smoking.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, man.
I'm all about making sure that all these skeletons, we talk about them before they do. So TMZ can come and say whatever they want.
Come on, y'all.
And they'll be like, look, man, we talked about ourselves. You guys can't say jack because let me tell you, we were messed up, and I'm gonna beat you to the punch on this, okay?
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and get it out right now, TMZ.
Just get it out. Yeah, we were
reminds me of
that,
that 8 Mile. You remember when Eminem was rapping about himself, Mr. B Rabbit? He was rapping about himself. Let me go ahead and get this out right now, so you ain't got nothing to say about me, bro.
Yeah, the next one is in my debut album. I don't think I can get in any more trouble from that now. It's out.
Yeah, it's out, bro.
You just got to do it.
I'm on this right here.
It's out now. So anything that come in in later on in a couple weeks or something like that, hey, that's on you, brother. If you get caught, that's on you.
I'm gonna be very vague about this entire thing. I thought we were talking about Pammy the whole time.
Okay, let's get back serious. Okay, so the fourth one is there's a psychological illness, and I want to stop right there because let's see here. Psychological illness, it actually, what they're talking about when they say that is they're saying they're talking about mental illness. Okay, psychological illness. People have realized, some people have come to the point where they understand that addiction runs hand in hand with mental illness. So what they're saying is people do not want to come out with their addiction because it runs hand in hand with mental illness. So if you got an addiction, you probably got a mental illness too. So that is why people don't. And the main one they listed in that particular source was depression. So I kind of wanted to talk about depression for a minute. And I've got some signs of depression. Now, the reason why I want to go this direction is because addiction and coming out with your addiction and coming out with having a mental health problem, they run hand in hand. I mean, I have friends who now that I'm studying mental health, I see these actual signs. Now, you got to remember, we're not doctors, guys. We're not counselors, but we are people who study what we're talking about. So I've seen these particular traits, these issues in my friends, and now it's actually helping me to not address it, but learn how to actually treat someone who's going through these symptoms. Okay, so those who struggle with mental health, if you're struggling with depression, or if you're a family or a friend of someone that you think is struggling with depression, I'm going to go down a list of things. And if you see these things in your loved one, or you see these things in yourself, we're just going to, ask that you get some help. Okay. I'm going to talk real light on this because this is a light subject. A depression is a very light subject. And whenever you want to address someone, when you're talking about depression or talking about their mental illness, you definitely want to be light with them because it is tough to hear these things within ourselves. But the first one is called sleeping too much. I'm going to go really fast with this. You see someone sleeping too much or too little. 2, changes in diet and weight fluctuations. 3, drinking more alcohol. 4, forcing a happy face. Think about that for a minute. 5, changes in language and topics of the conversation. Someone says, yeah, man, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. And they begin, talking about something, and then all of a sudden they just like, no, but let's just change the conversation. People who try to divert and try to run from the conversation of how they're doing, they may be struggling with depression. I like this one though. Crying for help. This is number 6. Crying for help, then taking it back. Let me refer to a note that I read from that. Crying from help and then taking it back. This is what it says. You might notice oversharing on social media, which is sharing posts that contain lots of personal information. They might show a pattern of sharing personal details online, then deleting the post soon after. I don't know how many times y'all seen that, but I've seen that. I've actually done that before. A few times. Actually, and was in a drunken state and send messages. I mean, I know many people in drunken states and they send text messages to loved ones and stuff like that. But I'm actually talking about going into detail about something, how you're feeling, and then just taking it off. Crying for help is a big one. Okay. And then taking it back. Number 7, displaying intensified feelings, irritability, sadness, nervousness, tension, panic, grief, crying spells. Feeling less optimistic about life. These are 8 signs of depression, guys. Anything y'all want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, anxiety is another part of that, that panic and grief,
right?
That feeling like, oh man, what am I going to do? Right. A lot of those things can bring, I've been in that situation before where you just feel like the world is just closing in on you, right. Especially if you have financial problems or whatever, and you're trying to cope with that. But hey, we got Charlie Cope with us today, so it's all about coping, So
hey, wait a minute. So is Cope your last name, or did you put that in there for? Is that like a AKA?
Oh, Cope is my real last name, but Charlie is actually the stage name.
Brandon.
Cope is real, but Charlie was made up.
I like the way you did that, Brandon. That was nice and smooth.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm one of the hosts of the show. So I don't know what to tell you.
I'm like my dad.
I'm not that conceited. Get out, Brandon. Now. Get out. I'm just going to dismiss myself right now. Seriously. But yeah, no. So seriously though, on depression, I mean, that one has probably been. That one has been a rolling problem throughout my life a lot. And, it's almost like you can either go into addiction so far as picking up substances, but I've also gone through phases where I haven't, but just stayed in a state of depression, and not knowing what to do with it. Not knowing that I was actually dealing with that. Just thought it was a collection of bad problems going on in my life, and it was just emotional upheaval.
Yeah.
And, my dad is not an addict, never has been in his life, but has gone through depression, and he's gotten real with me about depression before. And he was actually one of the people in my life years ago that brought that to my attention, that I was dealing with some of that. And he said he had dealt with some of that as well. I think I've seen my dad drink a beer or two in my whole life. Like literally, he's never been a substance kind of guy. But so it doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to go wild and out. But at the same time, you can still have a problem. You got to get real with yourself, got to get real with others. And I never imagined my own father would be the one to get real with me about that, Yeah. So I mean, my dad too, Rich, and he's just not. He's very proper, like your father, Right. So we're not the proper type, you and I, but
right.
But yeah. So it's good that we're talking about these things because they're connected heavily to what can cause major addiction issues and the need for recovery. So
also from my studying, it was a book. I forgot what the book was called, but it talked about what happens to our brain whenever we become addicted, and the chemicals that release, and the endorphins and the stuff that goes higher the more we get something. So yes, all the stuff. It talks about that, and then it also talks about what happens when we do not get it, and how anxiety can come from not getting it, depression can come from not getting it, because of what's going on in your mind. The chemicals that you're used to releasing, now they're struggling to get it, they can't get it, and so it affects the way you act. That's why I continue to say they run hand in hand, because what happens when somebody gets diagnosed with depression or gets diagnosed with anxiety? What some doctors do is they will prescribe someone to try to help them balance that, or rebalance the chemicals that they have lost from addiction. You know what I'm saying? It all runs hand in hand.
And here's the thing, the science of it too is that as you're depleting your serotonin levels from taking things that are causing that to raise your serotonin output, you're feeling better in that moment, but then your serotonin levels are becoming depleted.
Right.
And this is exactly why people go in and they have to take more and more and more of a substance, because it's starting to get less effective, because your body it's basically trying to pull from a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
And so now you're having to increase the amount of attack on your synapses on your brain, so that everything was firing again to the level where you start to feel good again. And before you know it, the thing that's left is very little serotonin and a full-blown addict. And this is exactly what happens with MDMA, or ecstasy, as we know, is that depletion of the serotonin. Your synapses are firing at roughly 100 times the rate of what it normally would. And it actually literally causes you to have holes in your brain. When they do a scan of your brain, you will see little holes all throughout your brain. And that's actually from where there was a once firing across the brain cell there. There's synapses, like little bulbs facing each other, and an electrical pulse fires across that. And there's a space in between. When that completely gets blown out from taking ecstasy, you will get multiple holes in your brain all over the place. And your cognitive abilities go down in comparison to what you were before you ever took that substance. And so that's exactly why, it's important to get help, because you can get to that place where your mind is still not fully capturing what's going on. You know what I mean? You're like at another whole level. And Rich, you and I used to have that problem, with the ecstasy, and that's that's a big one. So Charlie, what was your I guess a substance of choice that you struggled with that got you on the path of recovery?
Well, because I was a musician at a pretty young age, so I would, as a musician, a lot of the times you kind of get just kind of given things, and I was fairly young, so I definitely couldn't afford anything or anything like that. So my, a little bit of everything, but the main thing was pills for me, and a lot of times it was just kind of, like the white ones, or something like that. Playing with other bands or whatever, or even managers that thought it would be funny to get a kid high or anything like that, and that was a pretty common thing. And eventually I would even just hang out with, almost, gravitate towards those same people. And, I'd be playing shows and that sort of thing. And those were the people that were even booking my shows and everything like that. And I would be getting pills from them. I'd be getting liquor from them. And wasn't even old enough to legally drive yet.
Yeah.
But you knew they were your source. So it's like, hey, let's go party with these people because this makes me feel good.
It's easy for a musician. It's easy for a musician.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, me and Brandon will tell you, bro, the years.
It was part of the studio.
It was a part of our studio. I could not, and we talked about this last episode. I could not function. I could not write a song. I got really bad, Charlie, to where I could not write a song. I could not go into the studio. I could not do anything without taking at least 2 or 3 X pills to get me in my zone. You know what I'm saying? I really became dependent on it. So, I mean, it is good for you that you're realizing, and you're not, you know, like walking in at a young age. You've realizing, okay, I need to stay away from some things, especially in your career, especially in music, bro, because it's going to be easy for you to get it. It'll be too easy for you to get it, and too easy for you to be around people and just live that life, man. So kudos to you.
Be able to put up that guard now in the early part of your career is so important.
Straight up.
I mean, when you think about the reputation that the industry has, I mean, I think about Nickelback and Rockstar, you know, and you listen to the lyrics of that. That's an encapsulation of the rockstar life, you know.
Right.
You know, not eating and popping pills and you know, whatever, having women, all that kind of stuff. So there is that, it's that world of addiction. So if you are coming into your own and understanding this now at your age, early part of your career, that is so admirable. I give you major props for that, Charlie. Seriously, that's awesome. You know, so that's really, really good. And I think that's going to also, for, you know, I don't know how many people of your fans will see this or run across it, but that is going to let them know what they're getting behind as a fan. You know what I'm saying? Because you are setting the integrity of who you are today. You're laying it out there. And as long as you stick with that path, I really think a lot of fans are going to get behind you for that very thing as well, because they're going to say, okay, this is who this guy is. And I know there's a whole bunch of them out there that are a bunch of hypocrites, living a double life, you know, just making it through life on some substance. This guy's trying to get real with us, you know, and that, I mean, so that's really awesome. I did want to ask you where you're from.
I'm from I moved around a lot. But when I was about 13 or so, I moved to Brookshire, Texas, and I was there till I graduated high school. Middle of nowhere.
Where's it? Okay, right around the corner from where the world drops off, or
yeah, just right there.
Okay. I used to live up that way. Yeah.
Hey, I was living that way. I was living that way until I started going into recovery.
Yeah, right, exactly. He was in the middle of nowhere. Texas somewhere. Nowhere, Texas. Yeah. Yeah, for real. So when did your album come out, man?
It came out September 3rd. So it's relatively new. And we've had 6 singles before it, which are all on it, of course, come out in about a year and a half beforehand, leading up to it.
And do you have a tour going right now where you're traveling? Or are you staying mostly local to the DFW area? I know you're in Denton now, right? So I guess you're playing on a circuit right now, or what's going on with that?
I actually just got off a tour about a month and change ago. It's a 3-month tour promoting the album, and I'm actually I'm a UNT student, University of North Texas.
Yeah.
So it's a little harder to tour this time of the year, but I will be touring. I have 2 tours next year, and it's all.
Shout out,
and once I go to school, of course, I'll be touring
even
more. Than
shout out to everybody in DFW. You know, that is still considered home.
Home plate.
Yeah, that's definitely home. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what's the name of your album?
Americana and Whatever's Left.
Americana and Whatever's Left. And what was going on with that title? Tell me the background of how you came up with that.
Well, so I always try to be, like we were talking about, being real and being honest. I always found that you know, with my music, a few things that when I am honest and I put 100% on there, onto the song or onto the performance or whatever I'm doing, it becomes more emotional and much more soulful and more meaningful. And, you know, art without decoration, or art without meaning, is just decoration.
Yeah.
So that's good. Well put.
Thank you. I stole it from Rick Rubin.
he ain't gonna know.
At least I don't know about that one, man. We coming for the world.
So I always try to be really meaningful with my music and get very, very real. And so that way other people that may have had similar experiences can hear it and feel like they're understood, which I actually think, like we were talking about the stigma earlier. I think a lot of that comes from the reason it's around is because of misunderstanding, at least in my opinion. And especially like, you know, I've been talking to like the younger generation versus the older generation. I don't mean to be stereotypical or anything, but because I think it's because of the internet, that sort of thing, it's becoming more understanding. And even what we're doing right now, I think is erasing, you know, bringing in more understanding. But
tearing down those walls. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this album it's mainly a love story, of course, like 95% of music out there.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. How does that tie into, you know, so far as the inspiration of what you do as an artist? And then, of course, you've been in a journey of recovery as well. So how are your lyrics in your album tying into that experience of recovery? And where do you get your inspiration from in your music? Sorry, that was a loaded question.
It was. There's some bullet points in there. So all the inspiration, because all this entire album was a true story. I've written about 1,200 songs in preparation for the album to pick the best 12, and it ended up being 14 instead of 12. And I found that all the best songs were true stories. And so instead of just making a bunch of true stories, I made one long one. So each song was like a chapter. And the inspirations behind like the music behind it was just the emotion. You know, so people ask me like which comes first when you're writing the lyrics or the music. The story comes first, and you know everything falls into place with it. It's almost like I'm not writing the songs. I'm just the first one to write them down. You know?
Right.
So like, what about you? Like we listened to at the beginning of the show. You know, if you listen to like that chord progression, and that was my first single. To me, it was very anxious because that particular song was about like, you know, you're young, you're in a relationship and you feel like it's kind of declining. You're growing further and further apart. You don't know why. You're trying to fix it, but you're afraid you're going to fix it and you're going to make it worse, or try to fix it and make it worse. And it was just anxious. And so that chord progression just felt like it didn't really like end. So it made it feel anxious to me. I'm sorry, what were the bullet points in that question?
No, you got it. You nailed it. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. So there'll be a test when the show's over, and we'll have to I'm just gonna. No. But I mean, that's exactly. You know, I feel you on that. I mean, Rich and I have spent, good Lord, how many thousands of hours in the studio together talking about lyrics and placement of the notes and the layout and just.
Arguing
the chords. Oh yeah, well yeah, and then I would win the argument each time, and that's how that works. But you know,
but I was the one doing the recording, so
yeah, right. Hey, listen, over there,
when he leaves,
he's like,
the
studio, I hear you. Yeah, I can't begin to tell you how many emails I've had. Check this one out and critique it. Get it back to me, and tell me what you think.
Oh, we're going there.
Yeah, and then I would send him the list, and then send it back and go, okay, go back through editing again. You know.
Okay. All right.
So that's the way it works. But you know, I mean, seriously, what I like though, and what you're saying there is you're not just writing something to sell it, and that's ultimately, if you hold on to that as an artist, and you are really looking to put out a story to touch that emotion and really have a meaning behind your music, man, that's once again. Another foundation for respect from your fans. You got my respect on that for sure. You know, because I mean, anybody can just throw something down in the studio, and so that's, you know, I mean, especially if you got the right people behind you, somebody giving you the right pills. I'm serious, because I mean, Rich and I, we've talked about this. Is like the reality is If you really want to make something fire in the studio, yes, you can pop a pill and there can be some massive things happening with that. And that's hard sometimes to just say, no, I'm not going to do that when you know it's on the other side of that triple stack that you could pop in the moment. And you know in about 30 minutes, you're about to make something that could be sold tomorrow on the radio. That's just the way it works when you get efficient in that sound. So, you know, being able to deny yourself and say, you know what, no, I'm going to let this come from true raw emotion, not from a substance, and really walk this recovery out and give something to someone that they can enjoy and it really say something. That's admirable. And that's the way it should be. So
thank you.
So you got some more music for us, Mr. Charlie?
Sure.
You got something for us?
Water first.
All right.
Oh, he got some water. It looks like you're in a studio right now, bro. Are you in a studio right now? I
am not. I'm actually so I didn't want to have like background music in my or background noise in my apartment. You know, like neighbors and all. Okay. Actually, I'm in the music practice building at UNT.
Okay.
So I thought that looked like soundboards behind you. I was like, that's some sound. Yeah, I was like, there's something going on there.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead and take it away, Mr. Charlie Cole.
Thank you. It takes me so long to warm up, so I'm a little nervous now because like I warmed up before the show, but now that was like almost an hour ago.
Yeah, brother. Do you need to go use the restroom? Do you need to use the restroom?
Use the restroom. Just go. Just trying to get my someone in the stall over is going, what the hell's going on in there?
Right, exactly. Hey, you got to be ready at any moment. It don't matter whether it's if it's gotta happen or not. You're just gonna have to produce it.
You give me 1 second.
Something I'll do at my shows. I'll be like, I want people to sing along. Y'all feel free to sing along. And this song's in B. And I'll do that for them as a joke, but secretly it's me. I'm out of tune.
I got you. Yeah.
Let's see if we can make this work. This is probably my favorite song from the album right here. Hotel violation, hand, trials and tribulation. Every little small thing, wish I could do with you. Waiting on your FaceTime call, but there ain't really no time at all. Gotta get up and go, hit you. The road show is a lonely place, and my wheels keep on spinning out on the interstate. All I see is your face in the clouds, and they all thin it, and I'm driving the other way. So don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for what I do. But why does it gotta keep me away from you? Sing your songs all night long, I gotta keep on keeping on. Look what I'm putting myself through. Yeah, I'll sing, take a sad song and make it better, because I'm coming home soon. Gotta flash out the stages and all too familiar changes, and all the dance. That means I'm one day close to you. wrong. I'm thankful for what I do, but why does it gotta keep me away from you? Sing your songs all night long. I gotta keep on keeping on. Oh, that's when I put myself through. Oh, when I'm putting myself through.
Well, now that was putting myself through. If I clap right now, I can't make it sound like a whole cloud.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for that, man. Listen, there was a lot of latency in it, but I can hear that it jams. Hold on.
I was gonna say, I already since we need to get in the studio together.
Anytime music should be shared. Anytime, man. Anytime.
Rich could take that away with a side rap that would blow your mind. You could. I'm serious.
You don't just put rap on anything, bro. No, I could be a country artist. I could be a country artist. I can sing. I can sing. Let me get in there and sing with them. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to rap. Do I have to rap? Let me go on and sing. I could do the Nelly. Let me do the Nelly on it.
I heard you sing. I don't know. I think maybe you should rap.
No, let me do the Nelly. You know? Hey, so man, you got so your upcoming shows and how can people find you and stuff, Mr. Cope?
Well, I've got a ton of great shows coming up. Some of the public ones, all the public ones are on my website. If you just Google my name, Charlie Cope, and how do you cope with all this terrific music?
www.charliecope.com.
CharlieCopeMusic.com. But if you just Google my name, it'll be the first thing that comes up. And there's an events page, but I know this Thursday I'm over at the Dutch's Locker Room in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm very excited to play there. I've wanted to play there for a while. I'm usually playing at least 3 or 4 shows a week. So there's plenty to come out to. And I tour a lot as well in case you don't live in Dallas, Fort Worth. Always feel free to come up and see me. And if y'all do come up and see me.
Dutch's Locker Room?
Dutch's Locker Room.
Okay. Just making sure I heard that right.
I think it's on Magnolia, but I'm not sure.
How can they did you say how they can find your music, bro?
Anywhere you listen to music, radio or old school radio or
Apple,
like new
old
Spotify,
school
Apple Music.
What you mean old school radio?
As in AM, FM radio.
Oh, so you be on AM too? Because don't nobody be going to the AM. Everybody be on the FM. I mean, when you scroll through the AM, you hear and later on today, we got But on FM, Apple, Spotify, you're on all those large streaming sources, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool, man. Cool. Well, thank you, Mr. Cope. It's been a really good show, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Before we wrap it up, we want to just tell you guys our next show is called what, Brandon?
Well, we think it's going to be called Shedding the Shame, but that's the jury's still out on that. But
it's going to be called Shedding the Shame, and we got one of my good friends from DFW. I'm not going to say his name yet, but he's going to come in and he's going to tell us and he's going to share his story with us and help us host this thing. We thank you guys so much for watching. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it, Charlie.
Appreciate it. And guys, you can reach us on www.therecoveringaddict.life, or please subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Recovering Addict Life, Facebook, Instagram, all the same thing. And please do not forget, please remember that you are not alone. All right.
Thanks again, Charlie. Appreciate it. Y'all have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, bye.